There's something strange about people who want to become rich. Ask them why, and eventually, a lot of them give you some version of the same answer. So I never have to work again. Sounds reasonable, until you look at people who actually won. Elon Musk could stop working tomorrow. Not metaphorically. He could disappear onto an island before you finish this video and probably never check the price of anything again. He doesn't. He's still running Tesla, still running SpaceX, still attaching his name to projects that create absolutely enormous amounts of work. Mark Zuckerberg became a billionaire years ago, still CEO of Meta. Jensen Huang founded NVIDIA in 1993. More than 30 years later, still CEO, still standing on stages talking about the next thing. And Warren Buffett might be the funniest example. He finally stopped being Berkshire Hathaway's CEO at the beginning of 2026. Fair enough. The man had been doing this longer than most viewers of this video have been alive twice, so retirement? Not exactly. Berkshire's own 2026 shareholder letter says Buffett is still chairman and still comes into the office 5 days a week. Think about that. At a point where another zero added to his bank account changes absolutely nothing about what he can buy. He still goes to the office. 5 days, so something doesn't add up. Millions of people who have almost no money are dreaming about the day they can finally stop doing anything. And some of the people with more money than they could spend in several lifetimes keep working. Why? I think the answer explains a lot about why some people become good at making money, and others become incredibly good at watching videos about making money. Because there are two completely different ambitions hiding inside the sentence, I want to be rich. One is, I want to become extremely good at creating value. The other is, I want enough money that nobody can ever make me do anything again. Those sound similar. They're not. One makes you walk toward difficult things, the other makes you spend your life searching for the exit. And the internet knows exactly which one is easier to sell. The most profitable dream on the internet. Imagine I offer you 2 courses. Course number 1. For the next 3 years, you'll become painfully good at selling. You'll make embarrassing mistakes. People will ignore you. You'll hear no constantly. You'll slowly understand customers. Eventually, if you stay with it, you may become extremely valuable. Terrible advertisement. Now, course number 2. I found a loophole. 3 hours per week. Laptop, beach, automated. AI handles most of it. You wake up to Stripe notifications. There's probably a palm tree somewhere in the thumbnail. Which one sells? Exactly. The fantasy of avoiding work is itself a gigantic business, which is beautiful when you think about it. Somebody works extremely hard to convince you that working hard is for idiots. Then you pay them. Fantastic transaction. And this is where the direction of your ambition starts mattering. The person thinking, I want to work at something valuable so I can make more money, asks, what skills are expensive? What industries are growing? What do companies desperately need? What can I get unusually good at? Where does responsibility pay? The person thinking, I want money so I don't have to work, asks, what's easiest? What's passive? What can AI do for me? What can I automate? How do I make money while I sleep? Before making money while awake? That last part is usually important. People keep trying to buy the final level first. Passive income is real. Of course it is. A person owns shares in profitable companies. Money arrives. A landlord owns property. Rent arrives. An author owns a catalog. Royalties arrive. A software company sells the same product thousands of times. Money arrives without rebuilding the software from zero for every customer. Fantastic. But look at what happened before the passive part. Capital existed. An asset existed. A product existed. Customers existed. Distribution existed. Somebody built something. People love looking at the final state and deleting everything that happened before it. They look at somebody earning money from a company they own and think, I want that. Understandable. But they don't want to spend 10 years becoming the person capable of owning that company. That part looks inconvenient. It's like watching a Formula One driver cross the finish line and deciding the secret is champagne. You have skipped several steps, and people do this with money constantly. They want the investment portfolio before the income. They want employees before customers. They want automation before demand. They want to outsource before becoming competent at the thing being outsourced. They want the freedom created by the machine without building the machine. And because the destination is real, the fantasy feels intelligent. That's what makes it dangerous. Hating your job can make you very bad at making money. This part sounds backwards, but think about it. Suppose you hate Monday morning. You hate your boss. You hate commuting. You hate asking permission to take 3 days off. Fair enough. There are plenty of terrible jobs, so your brain creates a very simple equation. Work equals pain. Money equals escape from work. Now every financial decision gets filtered through that equation, a difficult skill that might take 2 years to master. No, that looks like more work. A serious career move with more responsibility, but much higher upside? Responsibility? Absolutely not. Building something that requires hundreds of uncomfortable conversations with customers? No. Sounds exhausting. A strange online system promising $500 a day after 16 minutes of setup? Now we're talking. You haven't become greedy. You've become desperate for an exit. And desperation completely destroys your ability to judge opportunities. Because the opportunity no longer has to make sense. It just has to look like a door. That's how people end up bouncing between completely unrelated things. Trading in January, e-commerce in March, AI automation in May, crypto again in June because apparently we learned nothing, content creation in August. By December, they haven't become good at 6 things. They've become a beginner 6 times. That is a terrible business model. Money doesn't care how badly you want money. This might be the most useful thing to understand. Wanting money has almost no market value. None. You can want $10 million so badly that you physically vibrate. Nobody owes you $11. Markets are extremely rude like that. They care about what you control, what you know, what you can produce, what you can improve, what you can sell, what risk you can take, what problem you can solve, what decision you can make correctly when everybody else is confused. Your desire does not appear anywhere on the invoice. And this is why I want to make money is actually incomplete. Okay, how? Through what? Why would it come to you? What are you better at after 12 months than you are today? What asset exists because you worked on it? What result can you produce now that you couldn't produce before? Those questions are irritating. Good. Useful questions usually are. Because now we've left fantasy. We're talking about capability. Look at what the people who already won are actually doing. This is where the billionaire examples get interesting. And no, the point isn't. Billionaires work, therefore you should sleep under your desk. Calm down. The point is what money seems to remove. Elon Musk no longer needs a paycheck. Jensen Huang does not need to impress somebody in HR to get promoted. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't need overtime to cover rent. Warren Buffett is not going into the office 5 days a week because electricity is due Friday. Necessity disappeared. The work didn't. That distinction is everything. Jeff Bezos gives us an even cleaner version. In 2021, he stepped down as Amazon's CEO. He had every possible excuse to disappear permanently. Instead, when announcing the move, he said he wanted to focus his energy on new products and early initiatives as executive chair. In 2026, he remains Amazon's executive chair while also being the founder of Blue Origin. He escaped one job, not activity. That's a much more interesting definition of freedom. And I think that's the thing people get wrong. The dream shouldn't necessarily be, nobody needs me to do anything. The dream is, nobody can force me to spend my life doing something I hate. Those are completely different lives. The first person wants zero work. The second person wants control. Imagine 2 people both become financially successful. Person A's fantasy was always no alarm, no schedule, no responsibility, nobody needing anything. Perfect. Monday arrives. Nothing. Tuesday. Nothing. Wednesday. Still nothing. You can only eat breakfast at 11:30 pretending you've beaten capitalism so many times before breakfast starts losing some of its magic. Person B wanted something else. Control. They still work, but they can choose the project. Choose the client. Choose the company. Choose when they stop. Choose who they refuse to work with. Choose whether they want another $1 million badly enough to sacrifice the next 3 years getting it. That is a much more powerful position. Not freedom from effort, freedom to direct effort. And weirdly, the person willing to work is usually in a much better position to eventually choose their work. Because useful people collect options. The world pays a lot for people who can handle things, not people who look busy, not people who suffer the most. Work itself isn't sacred. Digging a hole and filling it back in for 12 hours is extremely hard work. Economically, congratulations on your hole. The valuable thing is being able to handle problems that matter. A company has a product nobody is buying. Can you fix that? Expensive problem. A factory is wasting millions because one process is inefficient. Can you fix that? Expensive problem. A business has grown so quickly that nobody knows what anybody is doing. Can you organize it? Expensive problem. A piece of software needs to process something 10 times faster. Can you build that? Expensive problem. A company needs somebody who can convince another company to sign a 7-figure contract. Can you do that? Very expensive problem. Notice something. As the money gets bigger, the problems usually get uglier. More uncertainty, more responsibility, more consequences. More people depending on the answer, which creates an unfortunate situation for somebody whose entire financial strategy is avoiding difficult things. They're running away from the exact territory where a lot of the money lives. The most valuable person in the room often has the worst problem. Picture a meeting. 10 people. Something has gone wrong. 9 of them are explaining why it isn't their fault. One person says, "Okay, give me until tomorrow." That person is dangerous, because if they keep doing that, people remember. Responsibility compounds. Not immediately. Sometimes the responsible person just receives more work. Congratulations. But over time, somebody who repeatedly becomes the person trusted with the important thing has leverage, better opportunities, better negotiations, better reputation, maybe equity, maybe clients, maybe their own company. They have proof, and proof is valuable. Meanwhile, somebody else spent the same 5 years protecting themselves from anything outside their job description. They technically won. Nobody bothered them. Unfortunately, nobody desperately needs them either. There's a price for that. You can see this in almost every serious career. The beginner wants less responsibility. The valuable person can carry more. The beginner wants clear instructions. The valuable person can operate when the instructions disappear. The beginner says, "That's not my job." The valuable person notices that nobody knows whose job it is and sees an opening. Again, this does not mean becoming the office donkey who works until midnight for free while everybody else mysteriously has dentist appointments. That's stupidity. The goal is to collect valuable responsibility. Responsibility connected to skills, revenue, decisions, customers, assets, outcomes, things you can eventually take somewhere else. Because the moment your competence becomes portable, your boss becomes less scary. Now we're getting closer to actual financial freedom. The biggest money shift happens when you stop asking how little you can do. There's a question people ask constantly. What's the easiest way to make money? I hate that question. Not because money has to be painful, because easy is the wrong filter. If something is extremely easy, requires no unusual skill, requires no capital, requires no reputation, requires almost no time, can be started by anybody tonight, and produces a lot of money. I have unfortunate news. Approximately 8 billion other people are also interested. Easy attracts competition. Instead, ask, What can I become unusually useful at? That question takes longer, but it has teeth. Maybe you become great at selling complicated products. Maybe you understand one industry nobody your age cares about. Maybe you become ridiculously good at editing videos people actually finish. Maybe you understand logistics. Maybe you build software. Maybe you become the person who can recruit excellent people. Maybe you can explain complicated financial information without making the viewer want to jump through a window. Different paths, same principle. You're building something inside yourself that somebody cannot download in 20 minutes. That's valuable. This is why Jensen Huang is more interesting than the Lamborghini guy. NVIDIA was founded in 1993. Jensen Huang is still its CEO today. And in 2026, he was still giving NVIDIA's major GTC keynote about where computing and AI go next. 3 decades. Imagine approaching that career with the mentality, how quickly can I make this passive? You'd miss the entire thing. These people become obsessive about games that take a very long time. That doesn't mean you need to start NVIDIA. Please don't open your laptop tonight and announce a semiconductor company. The point is time. Horizon. Someone trying to escape work asks, how fast does this pay? Someone trying to build capability also asks, what happens if I become incredible at this for 10 years? That second question can completely change your life, because 10 years is long enough for almost everybody chasing shortcuts to get distracted. Several times, boredom is a financial filter. Nobody talks about this because it isn't exciting, but an enormous amount of competition disappears when something becomes boring. The first week, everybody is motivated. New software, new notebook, new business, new gym membership, new personality. 6 months later, much quieter. 2 years? Now we're finding out who actually likes the game. And this is one reason the "I want money so I never have to work" person keeps getting destroyed. The second, the work becomes repetitive. They feel betrayed. Wait, there's still work? Yes. Unfortunately, the universe has noticed your plan. So they move to the next opportunity where the boring part hasn't arrived yet. The beginning always feels exciting because potential is infinite. Reality hasn't had time to ruin anything. Then customers arrive. Problems arrive. Competition arrives. Numbers arrive. Now it's real. And they leave. Again. There is a better version of the rich dream. Forget. I want so much money that I never have to work. Try this. I want to become so capable that work becomes optional. Small change, massive difference. Now money isn't your only protection. Your ability is. Lose a job? You know how to create another opportunity. Industry changes? You know how to learn. Business fails? Painful. But you've already built something once. You understand customers, people, sales, operations, risk. You are not starting from zero even if the bank balance temporarily says otherwise. That's the part of wealth nobody can screenshot. And it may be more important than the watch. The real flex isn't doing nothing. It's being able to say no. No to the boss you hate. No to the client who makes every Tuesday feel like a hostage situation. No to the job that pays more but owns your entire life. No to working Christmas because missing one paycheck would destroy you. No to somebody treating you terribly because they know you have nowhere else to go. That is what money is brilliant at. It buys distance, time, choices. It lets you walk away. But notice what created that position. You spent years building something people wanted. Skill, capital, a company, a reputation, an audience, an asset. Whatever your version is. Work created the escape hatch. The escape hatch did not replace the work. And eventually, something weird may happen. You finally make enough money that you could stop, and you might discover you don't actually want to. Maybe you stop doing the stupid parts. Good. Maybe you stop taking work you hate. Even better. Maybe you work 4 days instead of 6. Maybe you build something completely different. Maybe you teach, invest, write, create, run a company, start another one because apparently you have a medical condition. Whatever. But now the work is chosen. That's what Musk, Zuckerberg, Buffett, Huang, and Bezos make interesting as examples. Whatever you think about them personally, none of them needs to keep showing up because they're worried about next month's rent. Yet they continue operating businesses, leading companies, investing, or building new projects. Money removed the gun from their head. It didn't necessarily remove the game. And maybe that's what you should actually want. Make money, not wishes, because wishes are cheap. I want to be rich. Okay. So does everybody standing in line for a lottery ticket. I want passive income. Beautiful. So does every person who has ever seen a beach. I never want to work again. Fine. But none of those sentences tells me why money should move toward you. A better sentence is, I want to become extremely good at something people value. Now we have somewhere to go. Because that creates evidence. You can get better. You can become useful. You can make decisions. You can take responsibility. You can build assets. You can negotiate. You can own things. You can eventually create leverage. And yes, you may eventually work less. That's the funny part. The person willing to work intelligently can eventually buy back their time. The person spending their entire life trying to avoid work often ends up with very little money and absolutely no control over their time. They still have to work. They just never became valuable enough to choose how. So don't make doing nothing the dream. That's too small. Make the dream being able to choose. Choose the project. Choose the people. Choose the risk. Choose when enough is enough. And if you want to spend 6 months doing absolutely nothing after that, fantastic. You earned a spectacularly boring 6 months. But first, build something. Learn something difficult. Become useful somewhere money already moves. Stay long enough to stop being a beginner. Take responsibility for outcomes. Get good enough that people notice when you leave. Then get better. Because rich people aren't interesting because they have money. The interesting part is what happened before the money had a reason to arrive. And if your entire plan is sitting there wishing you already had the result, you're studying the wrong end of the story. Don't wish for money so you can escape work. Get good enough at the work that eventually you get to decide whether you do it at all. Make money. Then buy your freedom.